You know what's tragic? A man with gold in his mind, but rust in his belief. I've seen it. Brilliant people. Strong, capable, gifted, but poor. Not because they lacked talent, but because they doubted it. And here's what life taught me early on. If the mind collapses, the wallet soon follows. Wealth doesn't start in your job. It doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in the invisible, the thoughts you allow, the beliefs you rehearse, and the standards you set when nobody's watching. If the battlefield of the mind is lost, then every strategy, every opportunity, every lucky break becomes useless. And the worst part? Most people lose that battle before the day even starts. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly backed yourself? Not just hoped, not just tried, but truly believed, with discipline, with certainty, with consistency. Because here's the truth. Life pays the disciplined. It rewards those who don't flinch. It crowns those who silence doubt, not just once, but daily. The foundation of wealth isn't in what you have, it's in what you believe you're worth, and then proving that belief through relentless action. So tonight I want to speak to the part of you that's been quiet. Not because it's weak, but because it's been drowned out by noise, the opinions, the rejections, the fear, the average crowd. That voice in you, the one that says you're meant for more, it's still there. And I promise you this, if you feed that voice with discipline, purpose, and belief, the world will have no choice but to see what you've known all along. Let me tell you something that's cost more dreams than failure ever could doubt. Not the doubt from others, not the market's resistance, but the quiet kind that lives between your ears. That little whisper that says you're not ready, you're not enough. What if you fail? That voice is subtle, but it's a thief. It steals action. It delays decisions. And before you know it, 5 years have passed and you're still standing at the edge, waiting for the perfect moment to jump. But here's the truth, that perfect moment, it doesn't exist. There's no signal in the sky, no booming voice that'll tell you it's time. You decide when it's time. You silence that doubt by drowning it in preparation. That's the antidote. If you're scared you're not ready, then study until you are. Read the books. Find the mentors. Practice when no one's watching. And when you're tired, do more. Because when you put in enough work, confidence stops being a feeling and starts becoming a fact. You stop asking, can I? And you start saying, watch me. I remember being unsure when I was starting out. Unsure if anyone would listen to a farm boy with nothing but ambition. But I didn't wait for confidence to show up. I built it, speech by speech, lesson by lesson. I stayed up late to prepare and got up early to repeat it. Because I knew if I kept showing up, that whisper would get quieter and the roar of progress would get louder. Doubt doesn't disappear on its own. It fades every time you choose to execute instead of hesitate. Every time you act in spite of fear, you break its grip just a little more. Belief alone won't pay the bills. Belief alone won't put food on the table or dollars in your investment account. Belief is the spark, but discipline. That's the bridge that carries you from belief to results. You can sit in a room filled with vision boards and affirmations, but until you decide to do the work not just once, but every day, nothing changes. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's not loud, it's quiet, it's invisible, and yet it moves mountains over time. You see, the power of discipline is not in what it demands today, but in what it builds tomorrow. Just 1 hour of focused, uninterrupted effort daily, consistently, relentlessly, and in a year, you won't even recognize your life. The problem is most people give up too early. They want fireworks in a week. They want applause before they've earned momentum. But success doesn't come to those who start, it comes to those who continue. I remember when I first set a goal to read 1 book a month. Just one. Nothing dramatic. But I made it a rule. A non-negotiable. And at the end of the year, I wasn't just more informed. I was transformed. Because the compound effect of discipline doesn't just change your knowledge, it rewires your standards. You stop tolerating mediocrity, not because someone told you to aim higher, but because you've now seen what consistent effort can produce. Discipline is the great separator. The wealthy, the successful, the fulfilled, they aren't luckier. They're just more consistent. While others are waiting for motivation, they're moving through repetition. While others drift, they design. Discipline makes belief real. Discipline makes dreams tangible. And when discipline becomes your habit, wealth becomes your lifestyle. I've met so many people who drag their past behind them like a ball and chain. They think because they made mistakes yesterday, they're not qualified for success tomorrow. They think failure writes the story, but failure only writes the chapter. You're still holding the pen. And the good news is, the ink isn't dry yet. What you did 10 years ago, 5 months ago, even last week doesn't have to define what you do next. But that takes a shift not just in your actions, but in your identity. See, most people use their past as a mirror. They look into it and say, well, this is who I've always been, so it's who I'll always be. But successful people, the ones who build something real, they use their past as a classroom. They study it. They learn from it. And then they step forward. It's not about ignoring what's behind you. It's about refusing to let it drive the car. I remember meeting a man who was deeply buried in debt. Years of bad decisions, poor planning, living for the weekend. He said, I'm stuck. But here's the key. He believed he was stuck. That belief kept him broke, not the numbers in his bank account. Once he understood that every new morning was a new negotiation with himself, things started to shift. He started small, he budgeted, he picked up books, he changed who he spent time with, and over a few years he reversed the cycle. Not because the past changed, but because he did. You can't edit the first chapters, but you can finish the book differently. The past is not a prophecy, it's a perspective. Let it teach you, not trap you. Because once you realize that your potential lives in your present decisions, not your past ones, doubt loses its power. Some people think they need to wait until everything lines up before they begin the right timing, the right resources, the perfect circumstances. But let me tell you something I learned early. The road to wealth is built with bricks of small, consistent actions. One of the greatest lies we tell ourselves is, I'll start when I'm ready. But the truth is, you're never really ready. You become ready through the process of doing. Years ago, I remember sitting with a man who told me he had big dreams. She wanted to build a business, write a book, travel the world. But he hadn't even started reading 10 pages of a good book every day. He hadn't yet learned to manage the little money he had. I told him what I'll tell you. You don't need to conquer the mountain today. You just need to take the first step, and then another one, and another. But every step should be taken with a vision in mind. Not just a task list, but a destiny. The mistake people make is thinking small beginnings require small thinking. But the most powerful engine is the one that starts with a quiet spark. Think about it, your morning routine. That $5 saved, that hour of study, those simple conversations with the right people, these aren't meaningless details. They're seeds. You plant them with discipline, water them with belief, and harvest them with time. Doubters stare at the empty soil and complain there's no tree. Believers plant anyway. If you train your mind to see every small action as a step towards something large, then you'll find motivation not just in the outcome, but in the process. Start small, stay consistent, think big. The real wealth begins in your imagination and then shows up in your calendar. Confidence isn't something you wait around for, it's something you earn. It doesn't show up at your doorstep and say, here I am, now you can begin. Confidence grows in direct proportion to competence. The more you know, the more you do, the more you practice, the more your belief becomes unshakable, not because someone told you to believe in yourself, but because you've given yourself a reason to. There was a time when I couldn't even stand in front of a group of people and deliver a message. I'd stumble over my words. I'd second guess every sentence. But then I studied. I listened. I practiced in quiet rooms and empty halls. I studied not just information. I studied people who were better than me. I didn't let their greatness intimidate me. I let it instruct me. And with every repetition, I got better. And the better I got, the less I doubted. That's the secret most people miss. Mastery builds belief. The problem is most people stop too soon. They hit a wall and assume they've reached their limit. But your limit isn't real. It's just the edge of your current skill. You can push that edge every day. Learn a little more. Refine the process. Pay attention to the details others ignore. The marketplace pays for value, and value comes from mastery. Pick something. Your business, your communication, your mindset, your money. Then study it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Wealth is not given to the uncertain. It flows to those who are sure, and that certainty is built through earned excellence. Don't aim for average and wonder why you doubt yourself. Aim for mastery and watch that doubt disappear. Managing emotions is one of the most overlooked skills on the road to wealth. You see, the moment you let fear or frustration take the wheel, your decisions become clouded, impulsive, short-sighted, and often costly. I've met many people who had great ideas and opportunities, but their emotions pulled them off course. They'd panic at the first sign of trouble, or get impatient waiting for results, and they'd make choices that sabotage their progress. Wealth doesn't grow from moments of emotional chaos. It grows from calm, consistent action over time. Emotional control is like a muscle that needs training. You don't wake up one day emotionally disciplined. You build it by practicing patience when things don't go your way, by responding to setbacks with calm assessment rather than panic, and by reminding yourself of the bigger picture when frustration tries to creep in. This steady mindset becomes your shield against the ups and downs that come with building wealth. Think about it this way. If your emotions run wild, they'll dictate your financial moves. You might sell investments during a market dip out of fear, or waste money chasing quick fixes when patience would pay off more. But when you train your mind to stay steady, you can see opportunities others miss because they're blinded by emotion. This stability gives you the power to make decisions based on facts and long-term goals rather than fleeting feelings. In my own journey, I learned that controlling emotions was just as important as learning the numbers or strategies. When times were tough, the difference between those who succeeded and those who gave up wasn't just skill, it was the ability to keep calm and keep moving forward. Emotional strength isn't just about feeling better. It's about making better decisions. And better decisions lead to lasting wealth. The mind that masters emotion will master money. Comparison is a thief of confidence, and it's one of the greatest traps that keep people stuck in doubt and scarcity. When you look at someone else's success, their achievements, their possessions, their statistics, easy to feel like you're falling behind. But what you're really comparing is your behind-the-scenes effort to their highlight reel. You see the trophies, but not the struggles, the victories, but not the setbacks. This distorted view chips away at your belief in what you can accomplish. Wealth is not a race against others. It's a journey of self-mastery. When you focus on beating someone else, you lose sight of your unique path, your own goals, and your personal growth. Every person's timeline is different. Some plant seeds that take years to bloom, while others may see quick results. The key is to run your own race with persistence and discipline, nurturing your habits and skills daily. I've watched many people derail themselves because they got distracted by envy or impatience, wishing their journey looked like someone else's quote. But the truth is, genuine progress compounds quietly, away from the spotlight. The small wins you achieve in private, waking up early, learning something new, saving that extra dollar add up over time. They build an unshakable foundation that no amount of comparison can shake. When I began, I didn't have the fastest start, the biggest network, or the easiest opportunities. What I did have was a commitment to my own growth and a refusal to let comparison steal my focus. I learned that true confidence comes from mastering myself, my skills, my mindset, and my decisions, not from trying to outshine others. So, guard your mind against comparison. Celebrate other successes without diminishing your own. Stay focused on your progress, your goals, and your vision. The wealth that lasts isn't built by looking sideways, it's built by looking inward and moving forward with unwavering belief. Excuses are the silent assassins of belief, quietly eroding your confidence and stalling your progress. Every time you say, "I can't because," or "if only this or that were different," you are choosing to justify staying where you are instead of moving forward. And staying the same, holding on to excuses, is the root of poverty, not just financial poverty, but poverty of spirit, opportunity, and growth. Belief in your future demands courageous willingness to face discomfort, to step outside your comfort zone, and to take responsibility for your own life. Excuses, on the other hand, are the easy way out. They provide temporary relief from pressure or fear, but rob you of your potential. You can't build wealth, success, or discipline while hiding behind reasons why it won't work. The mind that nurtures excuses is a mind that chooses stagnation over progress. Think about the moments in life where you faced challenges and told yourself stories to avoid action. Maybe it was a fear of failure, a lack of resources, or a feeling of not being ready. These stories are just masks for doubt. When you feed excuses, you starve your belief. But when you reject them, you fuel your determination. I've seen many people transform their lives by simply refusing to entertain excuses. They started with a simple decision. No more reasons why I can't. I will find a way. That decision is powerful because it shifts you from a victim mentality to a creator mentality. It's not about ignoring reality or being blind to obstacles. It's about refusing to let obstacles define you. Excuses kill belief because they divide your mind. You cannot believe in your future and believe in your excuses at the same time. One builds your dreams, the other destroys them. You must choose which voice you will listen to. Will it be the voice that says, I can't, or the voice that says, I will find a way? So, the question is simple. What are you believing in today? Your potential or your excuses? The choice you make in this moment shapes the wealth and success you create tomorrow. Choose wisely and watch how your life begins to change. When the path gets tough, most people lose their way not because the obstacles are too great, but because their vision is too small or too unclear. Pain, struggle, and sacrifice are inevitable parts of any meaningful journey, especially the journey to wealth and success. The mentally weak see pain as a signal to stop, to give up, to retreat. But the mentally strong understand that pain has a purpose. It's a sign that they're growing, stretching beyond old limits, moving closer to something greater. Vision acts like a beacon in the darkness, giving pain a meaning that makes endurance possible. Without a clear vision, pain feels like punishment, random suffering without reason or reward. But when your mind is locked on a vision, whether it's financial freedom, a legacy, or mastery of your craft, the pain transforms from enemy to ally. It becomes the currency you pay for your dreams. I remember early in my career, when setbacks and failures seemed overwhelming. What kept me moving forward wasn't that I avoided pain, but that I had a clear picture of where I wanted to go. That vision gave every long night, every sacrifice, and every disappointment a meaning. It made discipline easier because I wasn't just enduring pain, I was investing it in something far more valuable. Purpose is the secret ingredient that turns struggle into strength. When you see your work as more than a grind, when you understand it as a meaningful step toward a defined goal, discipline no longer feels like punishment. It feels like commitment. Struggle becomes a story of progress, not defeat. So if you find yourself doubting, if the cost seems too high, remember this: vision gives pain a purpose. It sharpens your mind and steels your heart. Hold on to that vision tightly, because it is the reason you will not only survive the hard times, but thrive because of them. Wealth begins not in the bank account, but in the mind. You cannot build lasting financial success without first building a strong mental foundation. Time and again, I have seen people come into sudden money inheritances, big paychecks, windfall sand just as quickly, lose it all because their mindset wasn't ready for the responsibility. Income rarely exceeds mindset. It's not about how much you make, it's about how you think about what you make. A person with a broke philosophy, someone who thinks like a spender, a victim, or a drifter will always return to broke habits, no matter how much money flows in. Money is simply a tool. Without the right mindset, it slips through your fingers like water. The wealthy are not just people with more money, they are people with a different way of thinking. They think like stewards, creators, and investors. They understand that wealth is a product of wise decisions, delayed gratification, and a vision for the future. I recall my own journey, starting with very little. What made the difference wasn't just hard work, but a shift in how I viewed money. Instead of chasing quick pleasures or avoiding risks, I began to see myself as a steward of resources, someone who manages what he has, grows what he's given, and invests in what will produce long-term results. That mindset reshaped my habits and eventually my life. If you want wealth that lasts, you must first commit to building your mind. Read, learn, surround yourself with those who inspire growth. Transform your thinking from scarcity to abundance, from victimhood to responsibility, and from drift to direction. When your mind is aligned with the principles of wealth, your bank account will follow. Remember, your financial future depends on the discipline and strength of your mind. Build the mind before you build the bank account. Most people live at the mercy of their emotions, letting feelings dictate their choices and control their day. They feed their fears with endless entertainment, distractions, and superficial noise. But the truly successful understand something profound. Your mind is a garden, and what you feed it determines what grows. If you nourish it with fleeting emotions, confusion takes root. If you feed it with truth, wisdom, and clarity, strength and belief flourish. I've witnessed this truth in my own life. In the early days, I could easily be swayed by how I felt, sometimes doubtful, sometimes discouraged. But over time, I realized that emotions are like the weather. They change. What matters is what you plant in your mind consistently. Reading books that challenge your thinking, seeking mentors who have walked the path, and exposing yourself to ideas that stretch your limits all. These feed your mind with fuel that builds confidence and belief. When you feed your mind with truth, you begin to see yourself differently. You understand that setbacks are lessons, not punishments. You start to believe in your potential, not your limitations. That belief is not born from fleeting feelings, but from the steady diet of knowledge and clarity you consume. Remember, your emotions are powerful, but they are not your master. Don't feed your doubts with fear or your mind with distraction. Choose what you consume wisely. The belief in yourself, the discipline to push forward, and the foundation for wealth all start in the mind you feed daily. Make sure what you feed it grows you, not tears you down. You become what you tolerate. That's a truth many overlook because it cuts deep into personal responsibility. If you allow laziness to slide, it won't just be a one-time event, it becomes your habit, your identity. If you accept mediocrity in your thinking, your results will mirror that mediocrity. The mind doesn't operate in isolation. It shapes the world you live in, and what you permit silently carves your future. Early in my life, I noticed that the moments I allowed myself to settle, to take the easy path, those moments stacked up. Before long, I was a different man, not because I planned it, but because I tolerated it. It was only when I made a decision to refuse anything less than excellence from myself, especially when it felt uncomfortable, that my belief in who I was began to grow. Building self-belief isn't about occasional bursts of motivation. It's about raising your standards day after day and refusing to compromise them. That means saying no to excuses, to distractions, to habits that hold you back of them when no one is watching. This is where discipline is born, in the quiet battles with yourself. When you raise your standards, something remarkable happens. Your mind starts to believe you're capable of more because you've shown it you won't settle for less. Your environment, your habits, your results begin to shift. People may test you, tempt you to lower your standards, but the ones who grow richest in wealth and life are those who stand firm. Remember, what you tolerate today writes the story of your tomorrow. Don't let low standards write your destiny. Build belief by demanding more from yourself, especially when it's hard. That's the foundation for true wealth. Your language becomes your future. It's not just about the words you say out loud to others. More importantly, it's about the conversation you have with yourself when no one else is around. That internal dialogue, the voice in your head, has the power to either build a castle or dig a grave. It's the unseen architect of your destiny. Early on, I realized that success isn't just a result of external actions, but the inner narrative we tell ourselves. If you constantly say, "I can't," "I'm not ready," or "this is too hard," you're planting seeds of doubt that will grow into barriers. Your mind believes what it hears, and if you speak like a loser, your future will reflect that defeat. But when you learn to speak like a leader, to affirm your worth and your vision, even when circumstances feel quiet or uncertain, you begin to shape a new reality. Words like I will, I am capable, and I'm learning every day aren't just cliches. They are declarations of power that pull you forward. This language becomes the foundation upon which your actions stand. I've seen countless times how people give up because they speak negatively to themselves. They don't realize they're sabotaging the very outcomes they desire. The mind needs encouragement, clarity, and belief, just as the body needs nourishment. Speak truth, speak vision, speak power into your life, especially when no one else is listening. That's where real transformation begins. Your words become the blueprint of your future, so choose them wisely and let them be the fuel that drives your success.